Nation of Fit in 10. It is day 20, and I am going to hop right back into these questions here because I got a lot of them and I want to get to them. And this person asked a lot, so let's get to it. All right, so yesterday I talked a little bit about energy balance. Okay, essentially, I mean, this is not everything I said, but the gist of it is, you know, you basically need to take in less than what you expend in order to lose, well, let's just say weight. Okay, you'll definitely lose weight. And there's obviously a lot of nuances to that. Certainly if you consume more than you're outputting, you're going to gain weight, okay? Primarily fat. Now, it matters what you eat, obviously. And when it comes to, and I mentioned about this yesterday, there is something called the thermic effect of food, right? So it takes a certain amount of energy to digest protein, takes a certain amount of energy to digest fat, a certain amount of energy to digest carbohydrates. Protein is the most costly. It has the highest thermic effect by far, about 30%. So, you know, this is one reason why protein is so effective for fat loss. One of the reasons, of course, there's many reasons, which I'll go through when I do a video on protein in particular. Now, one thing I want to say here is you are always, and this goes for muscle, by the way, as well. You are always chewing through fat and building fat, believe it or not. Okay, these processes are always going on. At the end of the day, what we want, if we're trying to lose fat, though, is we want to burn through more fat than what we accumulate. Okay? So, in order to do that, you have to be in a calorie deficit. So, maybe you've heard somebody say, for example, if you eat more dietary fat, you will burn more fat. And you'll be like, what? If you eat more fat, you're going to burn more fat? So yeah, this is true because you're eating more fat. So your body is going to use that more as an energy source. Okay, you've got two real primary energy sources. You got carbohydrates and you got fats. Okay, I mean, protein can be used as energy, but it's really, really arduous process. If you eat more fat, you're gonna burn more fat. But if you eat more fat too, you're gonna accumulate more fat. Okay, and likewise with carbohydrates. Let's say you go on a lower fat diet, you eat a higher carbohydrate diet. Carbohydrates can still be converted to fat, okay? And likewise, if you eat higher carbohydrates, lower fat, you're going to burn less fat, but you're also taking in less fat, okay? So, now carbohydrates, as I mentioned, can get converted to fat. It can go through a process called de novo lipogenesis, which is something that your liver will do. And this can happen if you eat too many carbohydrates, all right? So you're kind of, you can't get away with either, okay? You can't eat a ton of fat and think you're going to get away with it. Obviously, that's going to add a lot more calories into your diet, and we have to look at the energy balance, right? So remember what I said about energy balance, right? You have to be in a deficit of total calories for the day in order to lose weight. So, you know, you might say, okay, well, why not? Is there any benefit to me following? Well, actually, before I go there, let's say this. If you want to have a successful fat loss, and I'm going to specifically say fat loss diet, you need to have a diet that is either A, lean body mass sparing, okay, or B, very effective at fat burning. Okay, basically, those are the two things I mean, ideally you want both. And, you know, one way to do this, well, actually I should say really the only way to do this, well, not the only way, but I'm going to give you some key things that you need in order to do this. Let me put it that way. You want to weight train, which is what you're doing, because this is going to, especially if you're new to weight training, this is going to help to keep your lean body mass up. Okay, and I'll talk about that maybe in a minute. And you want to eat a lot of protein. Okay, not excessive amount of protein. You don't need excessive amounts, but you need a decent amount of protein. And not just for its thermic effect, but for its support with muscle growth. Now, that being said, protein can get used as energy. And if you're in too much of a calorie deficit, you will use protein as energy. And you will also, put lean body mass, in particular muscle mass, at a loss. You can put it at a loss if you follow if your calorie deficit is too high. Okay, if you're creating too much of a deficit. All right, so you could have, for example, you could create something where on average you are burning or you're in a deficit of 100 calories per day. Or you could do something extreme and, you could put yourself in a deficit of 1,000 calories a day or something like that, okay? Now, we would really deal with percentages here because ultimately, if you're somebody who's eating 10,000 calories a day and you go to 9,000, well, you probably, and this would obviously be a very large human, probably not going to lose, too much. That's only 10% deficit, right? But if you're somebody who's eating 1,500 calories and you go and you take a 1,000 calorie deficit, well, that's a huge drop, right? That's over a 60% drop in calories, and you are going to for sure lose lean body mass. Specifically, you're going to lose muscle mass. Okay, muscle mass, lean body mass are not the same thing. So I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but let me kind of hone in a little bit more. So at the end of the day, you want a high protein diet to support lean body mass, keep high thermic effect. It's got a high thermic effect, so it's very costly to eat protein, okay? Because it takes about 30% of the energy that protein gives you. Okay, you eat 1,000 calories with protein, it's gonna take about 300 calories to digest that. It's got a really high thermic cost, so this is really great when you're dieting. It's also very satiating, as I mentioned before. Okay, it's also very supportive to muscle growth, which is going to improve your lean body mass, which is going to improve your metabolism. Okay, so this is really, really important. When it comes to your energy sources, fat or carbohydrates, does it matter what your ratio is? I'm just going to cut the chase and tell you no, it doesn't. Okay, with a few caveats here. If you are menopausal or postmenopausal, I will give you less carbohydrates only because your ability to manage carbohydrates becomes a little bit, it's just not as good. Okay, so I'll always err on that side. Is this the case with every single woman who's postmenopausal or menopausal? No, not always the case. And then there's, you could go on a ketogenic diet, right? You could go on a super high fat diet, which is fine. But ultimately, if you have let's use an example here. We have two diets that are 2,000 calories, and let's just say for sake of ease, half your calories are protein. Okay, that'd be a lot, but for a 2,000 calorie diet, but let's just say it is. And the other 1,000 is either pure fat, or the other 1,000 is either pure carbohydrate. At the end of the day, you're not going to see, and data shows this is not theoretical, this is what the data shows, you are not going to lose more fat with either one. Okay, so long as those calories are the same. All right, and so that's kind of interesting, right? Now, do I suggest doing, let's say, a high carbohydrate, high protein, low fat diet? No, I don't, because you need fat. You need at least 15% of your diet to be fat. Okay, you need this for proper hormone production. Okay, and you're just not going to feel good. You also need this for essential fatty acids. Okay, so you want to make sure you have some fat in your diet, which is why I give you some fat. Okay, and in some of you're getting more fat because maybe you're, as I mentioned, menopausal or whatever. So regardless, you need some fat in the diet. Now, what about if you just do pure fat, you don't do any carbohydrates? Well, you could do that, I suppose. So, more along the lines of ketogenic, but you have to ask yourself, is this sustainable? Is this something that you can replicate over time? Can you do this forever? I guess I always think of the diet or a diet that's as easy for you as possible. Okay, and so one way to make a diet as easy as possible is to include as much variety of food as you can. Why would you cut food out when you don't have to? Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. You don't have to do this. Keep as much variety as you can. Okay? Keep your calories as high as you can. Okay, while still maintaining some level of a deficit. The slower you lose the weight, the better off you'll be. Okay? Generally, you're safe losing about 1% per week of total body weight. Okay? That's a very rough estimation. Okay? Obviously, it's going to matter what your body fat percentages are, but on average, about 1%. Lost my train of thought here. So much to say on this. I'm kind of dancing around. You could go that way, right? Doing full fat and some protein, but that's just torturous. You're missing out on so many different other foods. So I would go with depending on, well, you probably know because you can look at your percentages that I've given you, right? So a lot of you are getting, or when you start the challenge, a lot of you are getting, this was one spectrum that you're getting 45% carbohydrates, 25% protein, and I think it was 30% fat. Okay. Now, would I like you to have more protein than that? Yes, but that's something that's hard for people to do. So I start you lower. There's a method to the madness here. And then I build you up over time with the protein, right? In addition, I also cut down your calories a little bit, but not a lot. A little bit. So coming back to, just to sort of recap here, you need to be in an energy deficit. That's the most important thing. And if you eat more fat, you're going to burn more fat, but you're also going to store more fat. Okay? If you eat less fat, you're going to burn less fat, but you're going to store less fat. Okay? So you're damned if you do, you're always damned. Okay? With that regard, what we need to pay attention to is overall caloric intake. Okay? And remember, we want happy medium. We don't want to do massive calorie deficit because we're gonna put lean body mass. And that's really just one thing that I mentioned, actually. You're gonna put your muscle mass, you're gonna be at risk, of losing muscle, okay? You're also going to reduce your thyroid output, okay? You're going to overall reduce your metabolic rate, just your BMR, okay? We talked about BMR yesterday, right? That's the amount of energy it takes to keep the lights on. Okay, I'm at 13 minutes, so I'm gonna just stop there. So hopefully that gives you some more insight because this person asked about macros as well, so that's why I talked a little bit about that. Yes, okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Because I just kind of, for lack of better description, I just threw up a bunch of stuff to you and hopefully it made some sense. Let me know, okay? If it doesn't, if you want me to explain something, if something doesn't make sense to you or you want me to elaborate more on something, let me know, okay? Message of the day. What is my message of the day on this day? 20. It is the following. It is easy doesn't change you, right? Usually if it's hard to do, usually things that are of any great change or things that have been, things that you want to do but have been challenging to do, right? They are challenging, for a reason, because you're trying to change something, or you're trying to earn something that that is challenging to you, right? Just as I'm saying, okay? I'm just sort of basically repeating myself here, but the point is that it's never easy. If it was easy, then life would always be easy, right? And then nothing would be really we really wouldn't get any satisfaction if everything was just kind of handed to us. So, when things are tough, just know that that's sort of the way it ought to be, especially when it comes to trying to change things that maybe you've been accustomed to over time, right? Like, I really do think the more and more I look at the way we eat, it's, you know, it's pretty atrocious. And I think we're just so accustomed to it, like, you know, so, and it's really, I really think we need to change it, right? With a lot of the suggestions that I'm putting up. I mean, these are not my ideas, really, okay? These are really just things I have learned. And, and then obviously I have practical experience with. Anyways, I'm gonna just kind of wrap this up here, okay? Because this is way too long of a video. Easy doesn't change you. So remember, you want to change things in your life, expect for it to be hard. Okay? That is just part and parcel. That's what you have to do. Positive energy, positive vibes, believe in yourself, for the love of God, give some gratitude. I'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya.